Okay, let's begin. So, pwede ba lumapit dito para ilagay yung room eh. So, yun. So, live telecast from Zoom. May recorded din siya. Good afternoon sa inyong lahat. So, welcome to your second RP, actually third RPM na. Pero essentially kasi first RPM natin for 2 days. And this time, we'll try to do this in a single day. That's why 4 minutes lang yung iaalaan for presenters, except Mr. Ona will be presenting for the very first time. So you'll be her first RPM presenting. Follow. So una ay si Mr. Padayaw, followed by Mr. Tan, and so on. So I believe nakita niyo naman yung program. And kung may hahabol man sa Zoom, syempre natin mag-entertain ng question, raise naman ng hand. If there's prizes, makikita niyo naman din the screen in front of you. And other than that, this meeting will be recorded, so medyo tayo maningay. Eh, kasi yun, nakikita nyo, nare-register yung mga sinasabi. And para din audible din sa record, kung titignan ng ating mga advisors on how you are fried. Okay. Hindi naman ako ng bibisa. So, kung ako lang muna yung present dito, hoping na may bubble. So, poke tayo. So, swerte yung mga unang magpe-present. Pero take note, 4 minutes, with the exception of Mr. Rona. And we'll start with Mr. Padayaw with his presentation titled Modeling Hydrodynamic Pressure Distribution on deformable liquid tanks. With Doc Inay as his
advisor.
So, full screen po na. Tayo sa page ko.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So,
ay, sige. Wala tayong support. Sige, sabihin mo na lang next.
So, my topic is about modeling hydrodynamic pressure. I'm going to compute basically the pressure loads on the walls of a liquid storage tank. So next slide. So background study, of course, is expensive when you do experimentation. That is why we use solvents analysis for G-Raptor. Next slide. So what I aim to do is I try to continue a previous research study done last semester. So what was done is essentially simply SPH. SPH solvent is essentially a method that uses particles. That is quite different from FEM in that uses meshless methods. Next slide. My problem statement now is try to implement a couple of SPH methods. Now combining the two methods in order to compute the hydrodynamic pressure. Now comparing say in the previous study, there was no damage deformation. It was only like a one-way interaction. Fluid and the fluid impacts the boundary, but in turn the boundary does not impact. So I tend to my framework is now involving a two-way process in which both of the elements. Thanks. What I've modified compared to the previous meeting was now, I guess, last presentation, I guess, was more many objectives here, but I sort of distilled it into 3 main objectives. So I had, first one is to develop a coupling mechanism in order to sort of find an efficient way for SPH and FTM to interact. And number 2, once I sort of once I get that coded, I will try to validate the results using the same experimental data used with OutN. Finally, after validation, I'll try to simulate sloshing rectangular tanks. So I'll essentially be limiting my study within rectangular tanks. So I remember last time I included cylindrical tanks, pero this time I decided only rectangular tanks. So next slide. Significance, of course, better tank design, safety assessment is given. So Next slide. Now I also modified my conceptual framework. So I've added the coupling mechanism, which is essentially an important part of the entire research study. So the one highlighted in yellow is what's actually in the research. And the ones shaded in white are sort of the other concepts that are unrelated. So yeah, mesh base, I'll be using mesh base, which is for the solid model, and that's for the boundary for the town. Liquid model will be using SPH, which is essentially okay. That's a blunder. Supposed to be mesh. But anyway, I'm going to focus on a coupling mechanism that involves two-way coupling instead of one-way coupling, which was done in the previous research. So scope and limitations, yes. I'll be using ANSYS for FEM. For SPH, I'll just be using the code by the previous researcher, like engineer lab, just be doing some modifications for it to allow ANSYS to sort of work throughout that code. Make that coupling mechanism possible. And as I said earlier, it's only a rectangular tank. And in addition, of course, we're just going to work with water, not other liquid. The liquid storage and review related literature, not too much has been added. What I did throughout these past weeks was sort of just distilled all of that. What was contained. All yes, next slide. And
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Madaya, for that presentation. So, nandiyan ka ngayon sa hot seat. So, may tanong kayo, feel free to raise. And it's actually highly recommendable for you to compare notes on how it's presenting compared to how we will presenting para at least may idea tayo paano ba natin siya present or effect present. So, as for the Q&A portion, we'll have around 6 minutes. Fortunately, wala tayo gano'n. Mga senior faculty ako, medyo slightly sick lang. Siguro let's begin having your audience appreciate yung research objectives. Siguro what I would recommend for your presentation is to include what is sloshing. So if we roll back a few slides right here to your objectives, might as well relegate this to the left-hand side ng photos na on the right to illustrate ano ba yung copy. Then, how do you validate yung results? So, you might be showing results in Adrian now. Yung then, pangatlo, paano ito? Ano yung, parang, are there related literature who has already done this, study or a similar study? Might as well include that to have as a matter of presentation. And siguro, ang magiging main worry ko sa'yo is itong part na ito. When doing your scope and limitation. You have two different softwares. You have yung Spherical 3D na run, basically Fortran siya. Pero si ANSYS at LS-DYNA ay essentially closed form na software siya. Closed source na software. Hindi mo ma-access code. Have you already explored provisions within ANSYS where you can make your own solver?
I've tried searching some FEM software that in such a way that it's possible to call the software from the SPH. SPH will first generate values. Yun yung magiging input para sa FEM. And in response, yung magiging output.
So, are you talking about an API?
I'm not sure. I'm not very familiar sa terminology, but it's sort of like two-way. They are able to interact with.
Yes, kasi yung worry ko is it an internal API or an external API? Like you have your Fortran program running on a separate na parang may separate na process siya. Then essentially API na yon is magpapasok towards kay ANSYS.
Parang ganun. Although hindi ko alam kung internal or external.
Yeah. I hope na ma-explore mo siya kasi pwede kung internal coupling, mas mabilis kasi within ANSYS na lang siya. Ginawa mo siya as ANSYS na program.
Actually, ang naisip ko is everything, the main program is within the Fortran. And yung FEM parang nasa labas siya. Working. So as an external. So, pero main program.
As you work with scope and limitations, kailangan mo mag-include ng validation.
Okay.
Dapat ilagay mo dyan na it has to be validated first before mo masabi na okay, ginawa mo ng model. Next, as a matter of validation, dun mo matidetermine ano yung seismic event na isa-simulate mo. And matidetermine mo, speaking of seismic event, ano yung parameters ng seismic event? Yung period of movement. So, doon mo matidetermine gano'ng magiging katagal yung simulation mo based sa gano'ng katagal yung gusto mong simulate. So, yun yung mga consideration natin. So, ano yung mga ipapangako mo for midterms?
Yeah, for midterms, actually, I'm going to try to search more about yung API, more on the coupling between SPH and FEM, more in depth, I guess. So what I have right now is sort of just a general public. I'd like to provide more details about the topic.
I think that will be all for the introduction. Mr. Marta, who is advised by Dr. Pinay, and here is his title, which he will be saying it himself. Sige, go.
Good day. This is my topic, nonlinear analysis of RCP presented with externally bonded phase of fiber polymer, EBBFRP, using concrete crack model. So as a background, this study is actually a continuation of Engineer Landicho's study of modeling the same thing, but it's more of he did it using plastic deformation. So next slide. So here is his results. He actually used the experimental values that he searched from something and used his own FEM software as comparison. So as you can see here in the elastic region, he basically captured the experimental values, but when it comes to plastic behavior, it doesn't quite merge. So in the experimental, it's more of it dropped here because most likely that the cracks form and the failure is sudden. So he didn't actually consider that and only considered his plastic deformations, and which he also included in his scope and limitation. Next slide. So in relation to that, I'm going to introduce the concrete crack modeling to bridge that gap and use his elastic region and just connect this non-plastic region so that I can together, his study and my study can both validate the one he used as validation. Next slide. So here is my objectives. First, obviously, is to continue the study of Engineer Landicho. Next is to determine the crack initiation and propagation and the fracture patterns on a 4-point loading test, and determine how the shear span to depth ratio of the beam affects the cracking results and the cracking patterns. So I will be using that and validated to the results of Engineer Landicho and the one he used to validate his own also. So next slide, sir. So the significance of the study, obviously, we don't need to waste more materials in experimental tests. It also helps reduce determine the optimal placement of the BFR sheets based on the crack propagation and crack path. And it helps anticipate where the beams actually fail and is critical so that we can for preventive measures. So the scope and limitation is I plan to actually use discrete crack modeling approach instead of the smeared one, because discrete crack modeling basically answers all my objectives for the crack patterns, crack paths, instead of smeared where it just gives me a distribution of the stresses there. So I plan to use extended XFEM for the concrete itself, and I will use 4-point loading. I assume that I will still be using pin-pin boundary, and I I will also assume that the BFRP and the concrete is perfect one. So the failure mechanism will not be debonding. So I will also not consider thermal effects. And for conceptual framework, basically this is adopted from engineering and vitro, and I will be modeling it using discrete gap modeling, and I will be changing these parameters, most likely the shear span to depth ratio, but keeping this constant to change the location of the crack and the fracture. So these are basically this is one by engineering and vitro. This model states that an increase in PFRP net width and thickness and number of layers will increase the yield load and the total load, but only up to a certain point. And up to a certain point where no significant strength increase. So it's 60% of the length, 60% length, 2.5 thickness, and 3 BFRP layers. And also dove into BFRP sheets wherein they tried BFRP grids instead of sheets. And in that case, there's no debonding failure. So basically, I could assume that in my scope and limitation. And this one's, instead of BFRP, I tried to research more on other FRP laminates. And basically, it showed that the crack initiation in the control specimen appeared in the connection, most likely in the connection, and appeared in the components strengthened by the CFRP sheets. So most likely on the connection of the CFRP sheets. And last, this one, basically it states that the lower width of the sheet to the RC member lessens the possibility of concrete cover splitting. So I will try to, as much as possible, lower this so that the failure mode won't be the debonding, since I assume that debonding failure is not a failure mechanism. So that's it. These are my list of references.
For that presentation. So we acknowledge the presence of Sir Baniket currently on Zoom. So we will be posting his comment through text. So babasahin ko na lang siya mamaya yung tanong niya. As for my comments, siguro as one of your audience, siguro one naman na notice niyo sobrang di ba? Parang mas malaki pa yung thank you next time. So might as well work on that and focus more on the annotation of the pictures themselves rather than pointing them out. Parang your words, parang your words should guide your viewer on where to look at. Kahit hindi mo na siya based on your narration, may context doon na agad na ito yung kailangan. Kasi mahirap, halimbawa, so, how can you explain? Siguro it's better annotated than meron kang parang mahati yung mata mo. Yeah. So, yun. And same, siguro major na comment on how you will present. Instead of opening up with Romel's research, simulan mo with the discussion of the significance. Bakit kailangan yung study? Ito siya. Diba? There's a need to, for ways, parang, and optimal placement, anticipate failure zones of such reinforced na content or content. So, pwede mong simulan with that. Kasi, babalikan natin yung sequence, i-discuss mo ulit yung sinabi ni Sterling Picho, yung ginawa ni Sterling Picho. Might as well, dito mo na siya ilagay. Nasabihin mo, after laying down yung objectives mo and yung conceptual framework, that this is actually a continuation of Mr. Picho's research. Then you provide some key details sa research. Siguro ganun na lang. Kasi text-wise. So, takinang yung related literature, pero kailangan pa mag-speed ng mata para makita yung mga context mo. So, yun lang naman sa akin. Sir Julius, may tanong pa tayo? O, isip po ba nagtapay? Sa chat na lang, sir. May questions, babasahin ko na lang aloud.
Sir, may
comment.
Yep.
Comment lang. When it comes to your presentation, like, kind of practice what you want to say. Kasi what it looks like is, it looks like you're seeing the slide for the first time and trying to explain it for the first time. So like sometimes that, especially when it comes to a time limited presentation, it wastes a lot of time because you still have to figure out, oh, what part of this slide do I want to say? So like when you go into it, like, okay, so for this slide, I want to say this and this only, so that it looks like you're very well prepared now when it comes to presenting. You know.
Good point, Nico. And wala daw po for now.
Wow.
So, yeah. With that, we close the Q&A portion for Mr. Nahas presentation. So, palakpakan naman natin. Next, Gilbert. We would like to promote Mr. Espinosa. So, okay. So, we'll be presenting the research on it. We will be saying it himself. We may start now. Okay. Good day, everyone. My name is Joshua Espinosa, and this is my report on my study, the prediction of net pressure coefficients on low-rise cable with single dominant opening using artificial neural networks. My advisors are Sir Carlo Coleria and Sir Okay, so this is what we'll be going through with my presentation. So background of the study, why? So building openings induce localized pressures. So this is caused by the interaction of external and internal wind pressures, or simply put, net pressure, which cause damage and or failure to vulnerable building openings. So new researches focus on the use of artificial neural networks in predicting said coefficients by training it with experimental data. So right now, I have this listed yung recent studies on ANN models. We can see naman with their correlation coefficient that they prove to be reliable, but they were mostly directed on the prediction of and external wind pressures. So prediction of internal net pressures remain little. So next slide. So in summary, CFDs and wind tunnels, the traditional methods have already covered external and internal pressures. When it comes to ANNs, external pressures take focus. Next slide. So this is where my predecessor came in by making use of simple feed-forward ANNs to predict net pressure coefficients using single-size rectangular openings in 32 roofing locations. Next slide. However, what is not included in the scope the variation in opening geometry. Yes, he was able to account for the variation in location. However, studies show that internal wind pressure is not only affected by its location, but also its geometry, or rather its shape and size. So this is where a problem statement comes in, that current research on the application of ANNs in predicting net wind pressure coefficients is already proved to be a viable option. However, current researchers have have yet to consider the variety in geometry. So in order to achieve this, I plan on developing a new ANN model to predict the net wind pressure on low-rise cable roofs over varying roof slopes and opening types. So in order to achieve this, one is to first obtain wind pressure data using CFD simulations. Two is to determine the best ANN architecture. And three is to assess its performance by comparing it with literature. So if successful, we should have a more generalized model for net pressure coefficient prediction. Moreover, it becomes an accessible method for predicting wind loads, and it could also serve as an aid in preliminary structural design and DRRM strategies. So for the scope and limitations, I will also be adapting it from De Vera's study, wherein he limited his analysis to isolated low-rise cable roofs, and wherein the building flexibility and leakages are neglected. Moreover, when it comes to CFD simulations, I will be making use of literature to validate its data. Okay, so for conceptual framework, mainly this study is focused on the numerical methods in obtaining the net wind pressure coefficients. Mainly, I will be doing CFD to gather data for training of the ANN. So just a quick rundown of the review of related literature. What I have here are papers focused on wind pressure building with openings. So most of their methodologies rely on CFD simulations as well as wind testing.
and focus on low-rise buildings with varying opening configurations such as sudden openings, different opening shapes, and etc. So just quick rundown lang ng findings nila. Single dominant openings produce coefficients ranging from 0.69 to 98. They also observed significant transient overshoots, and that some design codes are found to be underestimating the internal pressures. And lastly here, for the application of ANNs, I have listed them earlier, but mostly they make use of different types, also varying input variables, and output, as I have said, mostly focused on mean or external, whereas K. de Vera, siya lang yung net. And of course, their performance show naman that ANNs are reliable or viable in predicting such pressures. And let's skip that for now. And those are my references, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Josh, for that presentation. Siguro, I would like to ask the audience to may tanong kasi somehow I'm barred from from commenting dahil ako po advice. Wala. Sige.
Pero, ito tayo sa slide mo. Nagagamit niya yung CUP. Nagagawa na yung lahat. Why do we need to do it?
I see. So basically, what yung purpose ng ANN or yung what do you call it? Yung motivation kahit din from previous researches is yung speed. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad to use CFDs or Ventana testing, but we're looking into the application of those results. No, for the application, yung experimental data into further usage. So that is where ANNs come in. So mostly yung na-focus na nila is yung external pressures, but when it comes kasi sa internal pressures, there's a lot of variability to consider. So K. de Vera, nag-start siya with simple openings, nag-vary siya inflation. So akin naman, I try to vary the openings geometry.
Siguro another thing to look into is ano yung nature ng CFD simulation? What type of solution is it implemented? If you impose yung boundary condition, then iraran mo yung solution. So sa CFD simulation, so para lang maidagdag sa little bit of advice, initially zero yung values sa loob. By having preliminary values, mas mapapabilis yung rate of convergence ng CFD simulation kung may initial guess value na. Then itetest mo na yung physics, then i-update na niya using governing equations. The closed, and syempre, kung close na yung values to begin, the quicker it will reach. Siguro yun yung isang pwede mo i-look into and i-pitch to say na significant.
Okay, I'll consider that for the next presentation.
Okay, sige. Reading aloud Sir Julius's comments. How do you plan to vary the building, the opening geometry?
Certainly move to yan. Have yet to, wala pa akong final configuration on how exactly it will be varied, but mostly dito ako magbe-base sa study ni since may available data naman na rin siya. So that is where I will be basing it for now. So I guess wala pa akong final na masasabi. I'll still yet to consult this with Sir Carlo, but yeah, mostly dito ko with that.
Yes. As for his second question, what is your expected performance for the artificial neural network on your stand?
I suppose if it works properly, it should perform similar, certainly move to bots like this. Or rather, sa ano na lang po, sa review of related literature. I expect it to perform similarly to de Vera's since kami naman yung may similar, what can you call it, training data set. So I would say probably around 0. The higher 0.9 regions, but still I can't give a specific number for now. But given naman na rin the performance of other studies, we can expect it to be as high as this.
Okay. As for his final question, what are the scopes and limitations? Siguro tatry ko rin i-expound mo. You should already work on that kasi part nga, that's in relation to the second question. And after your midterm presentation, when you derive or devise your methodology, you should already identify the scope of,
Yes, sir.
on how, ano ba yung increments ng shape mo, what will be the increments of sizes, aspect ratios na kailangan mo i-consider para malaman natin whether feasible ba or not yung research. So yun yung tinatanong sa'yo. So far, what do you think will be, what you will be imposing to be the scope and limitations of your study?
For now, yung mga nakasulat pa lang in my presentation are what I have considered. So I will still discuss the specifics of it with Sir Carlo in our upcoming meetings.
And may additional na advice si Sir Julius. So I'll read this. So please research on other measures of performance, specifically accuracy, precision, sensitivity, and specificity.
Okay, sir. I'll consider that. Thank you.
Siguro, that will be all for the Q&A. Thank you, Sir Julius, for your comments. Hoping na ma-improve pa further yung research ni Sir Espinosa. Next, we call on Mr. De Jesus, who will be presenting his research, which is advised by Sir Carlo Iatagui. Dahil bata ni Carlo. So, you may start.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jason De Jesus. Of this, my research proposal in structural modeling and non-destructive testing and non-linear time. So just for a quick recap. Again, my subject is Pyramidal. It's been around since 1992. And by that, we know that it's an aging infrastructure and has surmounted a lot of previous major earthquakes. And with that, it needs to be treated with structural health modeling, which is an emerging practice in civil engineering. Fortunately, there are already two existing researches I am based from. First is the one made by Mr. Tridas in 2019, where he created he created a final element model that we related to times. Well, he did this by finding the architectural plans, and he found the foundation plan, and obtained material properties for concrete and reinforced. Besides this, he also conducted infill measures to find dim and column lines. Next, please. So these are basically the findings of his research. Then afterwards, he created dynamic testing on the Pyramidal, where he laid out accelerometers which measures the frequencies of the tower, basically ambient and free responses. He also used various model analysis methods like peaking, FPV, and X-Zero. He later on finally tuned this model to adjust certain parameters. The next following research involves Mr. Lamparas, where he created an integrity evaluation of the Pyramidal, specifically using NLPHA. So first, he adjusted some properties in the FEM model based on a previous research wherein an NDT was conducted in meteorology. Later on, he created spectral matching, wherein he find earthquake simulations similar to the ones to the ground conditions in the Euclidean Pyramid and selected these two. He later on applied non-linear time history analysis to determine its response. These were the findings. So basically, what happened is that after the simulations, plastic hinge formations were formed in the tower after earthquakes. So basically, these researchers were both successful, and yet because of the complication, but still there are still recommendations by them for further researches. So let me enumerate them. Specifically, they mentioned the use of non-destructive testing, which can help in structural modeling. So in my case, my goal is now to continue the research and apply this missing concept. So the same problem statement still stands, because the UPT carried as an aging structure, it needs a reevaluation of structural integrity to determine potentially damaging threats. And with this problem, I created this main objective, specifically this one, and I have enumerated some objectives to answer. First is to apply non-destructive test methods. Second, to reperform the nonlinear time history analysis every simulation, similar to Lamparas' figures, and compare these newly obtained results to the previous findings of this past research. Next, please. For the significance, obviously, this research is important so that it can help detect potential risks. And in the event of future earthquakes, it is necessary to determine the system response. Also, by continuing this research by Thurston and Paras, you can help develop a framework in promoting structural health monitoring in different groups. In fact, in the UPD Los Baños, there's also a Caribbean.
Also, by performing NBT, it can help determine actual and material properties. Next, please. For the scope and limitations, the only thing that I will add is and explore is on adding non-destructive testing methods. I will still use the finite element model created by Mr. Friras and use similar computations with by Paras. Next, please. For the conceptual framework, I have based this, but basically I still highlighted these three concepts and adding more on non-destructive testing methods that I could have possibly researched so far. Also, I see, last week. Bale, parang hin-highlight ko yung mga concepts na gagamitin ko in my research. Next, please. For the review of related literature, as mentioned previously, ginamit yung main thesis ng dalawa. Then, in my new RRL, next research, I obtained three. Yung una, yung na-mention ko kanina, NDT sa emerger curve, which is very significant to me kasi through this, I have integrated possible NDT methods sa research. Besides this, there are findings na yung Melcher curve had similar features to the Palma curve and nagsuggest sila ng retrofitting methods to prevent formation of plant. Next one is another research by two of our professors, Mr. Namar and Mr. Pacheco. So they made an NLTH 810 to a theoretical two-story concrete wall structure in context. Basically, ginamit noon nila yung Kobe earthquake to para mag-simulate and nagkaroon ng findings na may yung failures influenced by tension cross. Unfortunately though, itong research needs further research kasi hindi kinaya ng computers yung kanyang parts. Lastly is another NLTHA study by these Turkish students. Basically, nagkaroon ng isang RC building na nasira, and with that, pinperform nila ito ng NLTHA and pushover analysis, which is another different type of analysis method. So basically, pinunta nila yung site, they found the missing materials, and they found out na kaya pala nagkaroon ng, kaya nasira yung structure for collapse because it is mainly due to poor reinforcement, poor market, and low contract. So basically, compared to my research, I updated more of the aspects ng intro, and I also delved into other different literature. Pero syempre, I'm still eager to know more about this research, and I'm welcomely accepting feedback from professors. So that's all. Thank you.
So then, of course, now open for questions. May tanong ba tayo? Wala pa? Na-latest pa natin. So, siguro primary na comment ko, particularly again sa review related to literature, might as well provide figures, yung summative figures about related literature to help us guide to be guided on how to process mga nakagisip. So, sinabi mo, poor workmanship, low concrete quality. So, paano ma-infer ng listeners yan by simply looking at your slides? Parang binabasa na rin at the same time. So, ano lang, for sure naman meron, since this is a journal paper, meron naman summative na figure for it. So, target natin, nonlinear properties, nonlinear time history analysis. How do you project na gano'ng tatagal yung, based dun sa mga literature na nasa
Actually, I haven't thought about it, pero sige mo, magpapakonsult na ako kay Sir Frilas. Kay Sir Frilas or Sir Mamparas.
Okay.
Pero siguro estimate lang in initial thought. Probably one step. But if not, and then I'll probably start earlier.
Kailangan mo start earlier kasi there's troubleshooting pa.
Yes.
Kailangan mo yan. Hindi mo na-expect na things will run smoothly as you go through with your research.
Possibly din magkaroon ng problems sa mismong site test. Like yung what you mentioned, sir.
Yes. Then last point, siguro to further distinguish yung ginagawa mo with the Paras and Frilas, particularly dito sa conceptual framework, kindly highlight yung kinover nila, yung kinover ni Ellie, yung kinover nila Paras, kasi yung i-cover. Siguro yun yung magandang. But to have appreciation na, nandito ng part na, ito na yung part na kinover. Okay? As for Sir Julius, and actually related to dun sa key na question for your presentation, which NDT methods are you planning of using? Do you have identified any limitations identified by, or have you heard about the limitations identified by the Paras?
Hindi ko sa yung target ko sa next hour. Basically, parang the innumerable possible na what they article on NDT since ito rin yung ginawa ng previous props, and since yung gumawa nito is a PRP or OPA, then possibly na makikita na tulong. But consider ko rin yun nga, yung limitations and costs kung meron pa.
Siguro yun. Ano yung ginamit na NDT method na paras?
ICSR lang paras actually, parang conceptualize ka lang siya. Kaso lang, nung pandemic yun, hindi na. So ginamit niya yung research ni Sir Oka and kasama si Mr. si Dad para i-assume ng properties.
Okay. So, nalista mo na yung mga NDT methods, no? So, would you be referring to destructive methods? If the need arises?
Destructive.
Kasi kailangan mo i-corroborate yung NDT. For example, you use UPV. So, what you'll get from there is yung ultrasonic pulse velocity going through the media. Pero kailangan mo pa rin siyang i-relate ultimately with the material properties, and you need to have baseline na parang baseline to compare to in order to extrapolate yung data.
Hindi ko ba na-consider lang magkaroon ng term na partially destructive testing. Kasi more on the post talaga sa end. Pero if the need arises, then I might.
And please also state yung status ng mga equipment just in case. Kasi baka i-propose mo gagamit ng UPV. Tapos sira yung UPV. Kaya i-propose mo na gagamit ka ng rebound hammer. Pero sira yung rebound hammer. So, siguro yun yung i-ask ko sa'yo.
Pwede hindi mo lang.
Si Dan, ginamit niya UPV. Talagang sinuyin niya yung Melchor na lahat ng ball, lahat ng teams, UPV niya. Better if specific NDT method should be reflected on the title as commented by Sir. Dapat naka-reflect na siya sa title.
What if sir kung madami? Hindi lalagay mo rin lahat. Kunwari, nagagamit ko
dalawa or tatlo.
Specific ko
kailangan naka-plan siya yun as you make yung methodological framework mo. Kailangan i-play. Sure ka na gagamitin mo. Essentially, this is proposal. You're proposing what you're planning to do. You're promising before your panel kung ano yung balak mong gawin sa research implementation mo. So, kailangan mong planuhin yun. Huwag ka mag-over-promise. Okay. Yun yung parang rule palagi pag sa mga research proposal. Huwag ka mag-over-promise. Okay. So, yun. So, I hope na incorporate yung comments. Mostly kay Sir Julius yun. So, palakpakan natin si Sir Julius. And palakpakan din natin sa So, she will be given 7 minutes to present because she will be presenting for the very first time. She was advised by Sir Julius and her title, protocol, so you may adjust ko lang yung timer. You may take it.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hannah Hirona, and I am pleased to present my topic on the integration of human parameters and the reinterpretation of building parameters in life-centric science. So risk is the product of three factors: exposure, hazard, and vulnerability. So when property is the object of risk, the characteristics of the property, or in this case, the structure, is the vulnerability. But when life is the object of risk, life is the vulnerability, and the building becomes a hazard. So grid size and risk assessment tools emphasize physical parameters such as the soil type, the placement of the faults, and even the building parameters, wood, materials, the structure type, the height of the stories, and the estimation of potential economic losses, which are in this case cost and time. So the identified problem with this is that current seismic assessments focus on physical and economic losses instead of the impact on life, inducing disaster, inequity, or injustice, which affects vulnerability. So the points to support this are the incorporation or the secondary consideration of social vulnerability parameters. The literature there supports that. Another point is the consideration of the building parameters as vulnerabilities instead of hazards. And then the importance of governance and justice in economic assessments of risk, since when the assessments of risk are focused on the economic side, such as cost, then it will favor high-value residential areas. So those are not the sectors that are needing support after disasters. So the general objective of this topic is of this proposal is to develop a tool to estimate seismic risk on life. The specific objectives are going to answer the supporting arguments of the problem. So that this considers social vulnerability parameters in the assessment. Another is to redefine the building parameters, which are initially vulnerability parameters, and to analyze the effect of the prioritization of changing the objective risk from property to life. How will it affect the assessment? So this study aims to contribute to disaster risk reduction management projects with the emphasis on vulnerable sectors. So this study will be limited tentatively to medium height buildings, or these are 4 to 7 story buildings as indicated by FEMA. Also, I will be limiting it to the occupancy category 3, since college institutions or structures with a high occupancy are included in occupancy category 3. And then for the data collection, this can be in situ. So my tentative method now is in just sidewalk methodology. So I have to be there. But in case it also allows for GIS, but I will be including a confidence interval or a range of error just to indicate how much more important it is in situ collection. And lastly, UP Diliman will be tentatively my area of implementation. So for the conceptual framework, I have included action words connecting my concepts. So the main concept is seismic risk, which encompasses the 3 factors, and it requires a seismic risk assessment in which the current methods are estimating economic loss and structural damage. So seismic risk assessments contribute to disaster risk management, which should emphasize equity and disaster justice, which can mitigate social vulnerability. So again, it comes back to the life aspect of the next slide, please. So for the tentative, for the proposed methodologies, I have rapid visual screening or rapid visual survey for the seismic hazard assessment, and agent-based modeling for simulation of life behavior. Agent-based modeling is essentially simulating individual agents and environment, and then assigning characteristics to them, and they will behave during that. For the review-related literature, I have identified 3, which are essential to explain my topic. First is this paper by Agrawal et al. He integrated seismic risk, integrated vulnerability to seismic risk. So this is a social vulnerability map. This is a hazard map, and this is a risk map. So if you can see, this area here is of a high hazard class, and this area is separated into a lower vulnerability and a higher vulnerability area. This is affected in the risk map, where the section with the lower vulnerability has a reduced risk compared to the top area, which has a high risk. So in conclusion, the seismic risk is relatively lower in those social vulnerabilities. Another is for the proposed method, which is RVS. So this was implemented in Metro Manila using a rapid visual survey. So as you can see, rapid visual survey allows for multiple building assessments. It is relatively inexpensive and less time consuming compared to other methods such as probabilistic seismic hazard analysis or deterministic methods. And lastly, we have an agent-based simulation paper, which has utilized an evacuation scheme. Basically, the data that was presented was the occupancy of the open spaces close to the buildings after a seismic. So I plan to use this within UP Diliman to assign characteristics and then to simulate based on the distribution of the behaviors I accumulate. So next slide, please. Those are my references.
Thank you, Ms. Manona, for that presentation. So the floor is now open for questions, and I'll advise Mr. Julius walang na manggagaling sa kanya. Joke lang. So, pwede naman din magtanong si Sir Jules. Pero for your presentation, there needs to be a clarification whether that vulnerable, since you mentioned the building being a hazard, diba? What kind of hazard is it? Is it a physical hazard or a social hazard? Kasi marerelate siya sa impact. If you're saying impact, casualty or injuries. So if we're going to mention casualties, so physical siya. Pero pwede din naman na indirect, na dahil nag-stay sila, they are more exposed to the elements, pwede pa-subject for disease, and that might aggravate their situation, and therefore increasing the social impact. So please clarify kung saan part ba? Purely physical ba? Or targeted mo din ba na social?
We are aiming towards, we are aiming to target din naman other social parameters. Kasi the tentative social parameters that I will be including is age, gender, the presence of disabilities, like educational attainment and the like. But recently, may na-discover din ako sa isang paper na actually yung isang factor daw in, for example, evacuating, if may kilala ka in the field, it's very social, hindi na-include sa distributions. So, sa social effect, yung minention sir, I think hindi pa siya included. So, I was thinking more of the debris, for example.
Okay.
So, physical na siya dapat. So, leading to casualties, injuries. But that I can consider yung social hazard.
Sa ako kasi yung mga related literature mo, yun yung inikin. Social vulnerability, yun nga, na-mention yung economic inequities na yun yung magiging impact ng hazard sa kanila. Lalo pang magkakaroon ng injustice. And ano nga ito? Since you are planning to limiting it to UV demand, might as well provide kung ilan na yung magiging number ng buildings that is supposed to be subjected to the study.
I definitely remember the sir, which is 10. Yung change in prioritization na was mentioned in the objectives. Tentative method, but lahat po. But yung proposed method is that I rank them according to their risk. Combined na yan ng vulnerability and hazard. And then I employ a statistical test to compare the rankings. So, 10 building shot tentatively. Kasi I am still not sure kung kaya ko ba. Kasi yun na nga, yung rapid visual survey, may form yun. Then you have to check out, ano yung soil type, ilang stories, so preferable siya sana if mapuntahan siya. So I am not sure pa. I can increase the number of buildings for sure, but siguro yung minimum for now.
Okay. And since nalimitahan mo sa educational institutions, you might expect na might as well as you present yung mga final results ng research mo, i-highlight mo na educational ito, parang it's a very different context kung sabihin mo na residential. Kasi iba yung, and speaking of that, magmamatter ba yung number of occupants or percent occupancy ba yung kailangan mo? Kasi gusto mo makuha yung impact eh.
Yes.
Na halimbawa, kung isa lang yung tao nandun sa building, so yung maka-quantify mo lang ng vulnerability is for that one person only, or are you considering a population or say person specific vulnerability?
Yung population, sir, included din naman siya dapat sa exposure. Kasi the more people building, the more people are exposed. Pero with regards to the people, agent-based modeling kasi yung gagawin. So hindi ko siya pwedeng i-express as a general population. Siguro I will add this for further presentations. Na kailangan ko malaman yung population. Kasi I have to identify ilan yung tao. Then I have to identify the distribution of characteristics. Ilan yung mga bata, ilan yung mga senior. So I think important yung population first. So I have population first.
Medyo masasaktan yung mga senior. So, yun na. So, siguro after your midterm presentation, yun yung kailangan mo i-lay down ng methodology para masabi mo, approve mo na feasible yung balak mong gawin. Mga educational institutions. As for the others, may tanong ba kayo? So, very interesting yung research. So, si Jaden, may tanong.
Comment lang sa conceptual framework.
Yes.
okay naman, bali nalalatag mo lahat ng concepts. Pero si Sir Coleo kasi, mahilig siyang maningil ng content kasi kung sinabi niya sa akin, pag gagawa ka ng conceptual framework, dapat ka walang hours. Basically, parang nilalayan mo lahat ng concepts na pwede mong i-relate sa atin. Eh, siguro, pwede mo ganyan kay Joshua na yung ina-highlight mo yung mga concepts na ginamit mo and i-click mo. Pag nilagay kasi ng hours, I think nagiging methodological framework. Ayun lang.
Comment din ako kasi yun nga, yung prefer ni, yung comment sa akin ni Sir Julius. I try to put action words. Laban na lang by I try to put action words to indicate yung relations with the concept. So I thought for that, hindi naman kasi always two-way yung relationship. For example, hindi mo pwedeng hazard composite size. So, nilagay ko ng arrows. But that's also a good thing.
I have a question opposed. Actually, it's a question. I say, I'm having a problem with regards to. I just appreciate that you wrote down the relationship. Kasi it's nice na, uy, isa kasi mga baka sa concept of framework. I don't know like how are they related. Very nice that you can see. Although I would have loved it because it's much bigger. Should mitigate mga ganun. But it's nice. I appreciate it. Although tama lang natin. Words.
Depende sa audience.
Kasi vulnerability is more of you really work out what are the relationships with problems. There are words.
Yeah, siguro dagdag lang po, parang ano lang sa vulnerability, sa definition ng social vulnerability, ano lang, mag-focus na lang para mas malinaw yung definitions. Para hindi ka malito kapag pag nag-research ka lang kung sa social vulnerability. Sobrang daming aspects para yun. Okay.
For that, maraming studies but may mga parang they are age disability and then higher than kids and older identified na yung mga na may vulnerability.
Siguro since na-narrow down muna sa education, dapat recognize na-communicate mo na yung narinig. Okay? First time,
is na kaya natin convert to load, so yun yung demand. And yung demand naman na compare natin sa capacity, which is mean and standard deviation. So basically mean standard deviation, we can randomly generate it using Excel lang. So compare demand versus capacity. So okay, so that's root fastener stuff. And then
set up ako ng Zoom.
And then next slide. So to wall demand, same principle lang din. So using ANSYS, nag-set tayo ng mga parang discretized walls. So kung dito tayo sa mga area na to kukuha ng mga CP values, so area average
sa mean and standard deviation na randomly generated using Excel. So, man versus capacity, so comes there. And then for ceilings naman po, so same principle, next slide. Same principle lang din as well. So, bale, for each discretized panel, go na area average value with two load which are randomly generated using mean and standard deviation. So, moving on to next slide. So, ngayon naman, for the Berlin, mas nag-focus tayo on using PTAB. So, bale sa Berlins, bale, kumuha tayo ng mga area average CT value throughout the envelope ng answers na structure natin. So, from area average, kinonvert natin to CP, kinonvert natin to load. So, area loads na po yun. And then, parang kinonvert po natin siya to line load. So, based on tributary width. So, yun yung parang naman sa roof. Para naman sa walls mismo, pwede naman siya wall na lang. So, the reason why we did that is parang my advisor and I found it na mas accurate to kasi sa panel na lang din nasa room. So, ganyan siya. Although it's a bit longer, it's a bit more accurate daw po. So, as per that, so yung demand, since nakalatid na yung mismo load, makakapag-extract na tayo ng mga internal forces within the member. So, shear, moment, flexure, action, gano'n. So, makakapag-extract na tayo. And compare na natin sa mean standard deviation based on Marcos rate. So, next slide. As for current after connection, so same principle lang din po, using same structure, same loads, nakalatag na. Extract na lang tayo ng demand from PTAB, so P, which is axial, and then P2, which is shear. And then compare natin sa pull-up capacity na galing sa research paper. Then yung shear tensile combined action and shear, galing naman siya sa 151 concept. Pero as for the properties ng screw, under investigation pa siya. So, initially natapos na kami dyan. Pero, like, nung further tingin namin yung plans, parang something we have to change. So, yes, under investigation. The next slide. As for Raptor members naman, so, yung main method po sana namin is i-check yung DC ratio ng Raptor. So, basically, the manual capacity. But if DC ratio is greater than 1, that's a fail. Kaso, on ETABS nga po, since ang members natin ay cold form steam, and sa ETABS naman ay steam na, so using ASC, we have to use ASI, which is not available on ETABS. So, yung ginawa na lang po namin ng workaround ng advisory ko is that DC ratio pa rin ng member bilang steel, pero yung mga natitirang failure modes niya bilang cold form is manually na namin ginawa. So, yun po, DC ratio and then demand. So, yung demand is nangagaling na lang po sa flexural demand, which is to compare sa flexural distortion buckling, which is nanggaling sa AS. So, in the interest of time, bisa ko na lang po. Remaining task, so one more component, that's the component. Then after that component, that's the po yun. So, after that, cost analysis na lang. So, basically, compute yung cost ng national sila versus that na po. And then, from there, makakuha tayo ng damage ratio, which will lead us to our vulnerability. So, our next slide is my Gantt chart. So, basically, yung deliverables ko po for midterms is at the very least, yung 7 components na sana tapos na. Para at least after midterms, puro cost calculation, curve, and vulnerability and fragility curve development. So, yun po sana. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galvez. We'll take notes in 190 students, so gentlemen present one.
Wow. My God.
So, the floor is now open for questions. So, habang nilunod Sir Julius yung pwede niyang tanong, but might as well ask na bakit yung code provisions yung ginagawa? Parang check yung consistency. You have yung fasteners na merong mean and standard deviation. You have yung purlins from Marcos study, mean and standard deviation. Then pagdating sa others, biglang naging code-based na.
Well, kasi for that, yung burden Raptor connections, so mean and standard deviation din po talaga sana. Kaso as of now, parang wala po talaga kami like paper or source of para sa mean and standard shear tensile combination shear.
Actually, ang pwede mong magamit dyan is yung notion as to how did they come up with the understack factor. Nanggaling, yung 0.75 na. Marirelate mo siya sa coefficient of variance. If you check yung yung salmon natin, yung ating Bible, ng ating steel design, may reason bakit 0.75 yan. Doon mo ma-derive kung ano yung standard.
So kunyari sir, evaluate ko to, pwedeng yun yung lead, and then standard deviation.
Yeah.
So this is basically
Yes.
the cognitive variance standard deviation based on
Yan yung lower bound. Lower bound standard deviation. Yan yung. So you're considering different scenarios, and ito nga yung consider yung scenario on which by 1 or 2 standard deviations na mas mahina. That's the principle.
And then, so same with Raptor like this. Say Raptor DC ratio plus distortional capacity. Dapat naka-standard deviation.
And siguro, very curious lang, would you put yung propagation na, meaning if nag-fail ito, consider mo na nag-fail yung nasa taas?
Ano sir? Sa na-recommend na po ni Sir Kyle na initial failure ng nasa school.
Paano initial failure?
Hindi na po siya.
Hindi mo na i-consider na if ito connected kay yung Raptor to column connection, connected kay Raptor, pag nasira ito, sinusuportahan ito.
Ayun. Sige, tanong ko na lang kayo.
Kasi magiging may video. Tapos yung paper na kinote ko, essentially, ito yung ginawa. Kilala mo naman yung photo.
Sir Howard.
And yun, yung tinatanong, finally, nagtanong na si Sir Julius. Which comes first? Vulnerability curve or fragility curve in the development? Parang ano yung muna mo ma-develop as you go through this analysis?
Kasi, so parang i-evaluate mo na yung positive, kung they're positive BDR. So, from BDR, ang vulnerability curve. Ako. And then, yung fragility curve, sa bandang latter side. Kasi, doon, i-evaluate na namin yung exceedance probability. So, yung frequency na.
Yes. Siguro in relation to that, part of fragility curves is identifying yung damage states. How are you planning to identify yung overall building damage state? What you only have in the cases definition is yung per component. Sinabi mo na roof, wall, window, may separate sila damage rate, parang damage state. Pero you want to identify na isa lang, unified for the whole building.
So, nabring up na po siya sa akin how do I plan. So, overall building. And may recommend po sa akin ng previous what I today. May damage state definitions siyang nahanap. So, for overarching building. So, I guess titingnan ko pa lang siya kasi I haven't really got it.
Please include that sa midterm para malaman masagot din. Then, why is there a need for fragility?
Fragility.
If gagawin, parang tinatarget din pala siyang to.
Well, yung vulnerability kasi it attests to parang yung likely cost, di ba sir? Likely cost supposed na ganyan yung wind speed. And then yung fragility naman siguro, okay. Good question.
Kasi nag-reflect sa title pa lang. Tapos yung tinatanong whether it is still included in the scope of your study.
Well, it is, sir. Pero kung bakit? May dapat akong sagot yan, pero I will come back. Pero alam ko, it attests to yung probability. Like, yung kung yung isa is yung probability na ganyan was, siguro yung isa naman na ganyan attests to how likely it is to reach this certain failure state, damage state.
Siguro i-work on mo yan sa midterm. And parang parang sinasabi na if na-identify mo pala na out of scope, there's no need to do it. No need to do it. Please have a serious dialogue with your advisor concerning that. So, in preparation for the midterms, I believe 2 weeks from now. Or next Friday. Next Friday. Kung nga pala, yung sa 190 pa tayo, 2 weeks from now. So, yun. That will be all for Mr. Galvez. Mr. De Leon, did you present this? So, you have also the same time, and he is advised by Sir Colegio, Sir and Dr. So, Higo, you may take it.
So today we're going to be talking about stress-based shape optimization of non-prismatic tissues in isogeometric analysis. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Inigo Rafael Castellon, and my advisors for this thesis are Sir Carlo Colegio, Sir Alvin and Dr. Eric. So I just want to remind everyone that there currently exists a lack of research regarding the shape optimization of non-prismatic based on stress. And although current methods exist, they either consume significant time, are increasingly difficult to execute, or may introduce some inaccuracies with the results attained by the model. Which is why, next slide please, this thesis aims to develop a tool and procedure for the shape optimization of non-prismatic beams using isogeometric analysis. Specifically, we aim to develop a 2D IGA tool capable of computing for displacements and internal stresses. We aim to verify the performance of the tool, to apply the tool and procedure to different cases of non-prismatic beams, to compare the optimized shapes based on stress versus those obtained using displacement-based optimization, and finally, to properly document the tool so future researchers can use it. Next slide, please. So how are we going to do this? Well, we can do this starting by modeling, which will then lead to the development of the 2D IGA tool. While this is happening, we'll be collecting results for its verification. Once the tool has been developed and verified, we can then move on to the development of the shape optimization algorithm, which we will apply to the different cases that I mentioned previously, and then we can compare those attained results with those attained via displacement. So currently, we're done with the modeling. We're done with the development of the tool. We have collected results, and we also have verified the tool, which leaves the optimization part to be next. So from the last RPM, I mentioned that I coded the practice FEM tool, and I've gotten into contact with the previous researcher, Mahamba. In the month since that RPM, I've actually been able to code an IGA tool that computes not only for displacements, but also strains and internal stresses, and importantly, the von Mises stress, which will be used for the optimization procedure. I verified the tool with results obtained from a sample problem given by Sir Janiva's thesis, as well as from a sample problem from Chandra Sekhar et al., who's one of my students. Finally, from that sample problem, I've been able to visualize the stress results in a separate software known as GID, which is a visualization software. This is the flowchart for Bayesian optimization, but we don't have to worry about this right now. Next slide. This is the flowchart that we'll be using for this thesis. So we start by inputting the initial model parameters into the IGA tool. Now, this is the only part of the procedure that requires human intervention. Everything else will be automated by the tool. So once we have those initial model parameters, our tool will evaluate them in order to attain our displacement strains, but most importantly, our internal stresses. When those stresses have been attained, they will be inputted into the Bayesian optimization procedure, which will then update the coordinates of the control points, giving us a new model that we can put back into the IGA tool, which will solve for the stresses again. Now, our cost function will be based on minimizing the internal stress. So if our cost function has not been minimized yet, it will go back to the Bayesian optimization procedure. We'll get a new model with updated coordinates. It'll go back to the IGA tool to solve the stresses, and this will iterate continuously until our cost function has been minimized, in which we can output the new locations of the control points, which will give us our optimized shape. Next slide. So currently, I've researched on its applicability in optimization problems, and it works. And I've also found resources of implementing it in C++, which is the code that I'm using right now. My goal for this is to finish the optimization code by the first week of May, in order for the rest of May to be working on the optimization on different cases, as well as on the final presentation and final manuscript proper. So that's reflected in my Gantt chart. Currently, it's the 3rd week of March, so I'm done with the IGA tool. I'll be testing Bayesian optimization and coding the optimization procedure for the entirety of April, so that by May, I can focus on the creation of the final presentation, as well as the final manuscript. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon, for that wonderful presentation. So the floor is now open for questions. So curious tayo about IGA, pwede tayo magtanong. Gamitin natin itong opportunity para may matutunan tayo. So actually, natututo na tayo as we listen to these types of presentation. So siguro let me begin asking, is there any chance in your parang cost optimization procedure na maging divergent yung optimization procedure mo na instead na as it progresses, as it updates yung model, baka pag-produce siya ng something na magbibigay eventually ng malaking cost, unguided siya.
Sir, so optimization kasi is it will I chose it because of the fact that it mixes exploration and exploitation. So it not only is able to minimize the cost function with the current acquisition function, but it will also be able to explore different variations of that cost function so that it doesn't end up diverging into it.
So let me follow up with something that I have already asked you in the previous meeting. Have you already tried yung sensitivity this time? Magmamatter ba kung gaano karami yung elements that will be introduced?
So in one of my RRLs by Ong and Ma, they actually noted that the mesh sensitivity for the optimization procedure does not have to be that sensitive, because if it's too sensitive, it could cause the optimization procedure to take a long time to a lot of cost and a lot of time. So they noted that it does not need to be that sensitive for the iteration procedure, but then when it comes to the final output of the optimization, that's when the sensitivity of the mesh needs to be considered.
Might as well consider mo na in a grid convergence analysis ka na to check which size
yes, sir.
you will be working on prior hand.
Yes, sir. What I will be planning to do is I will be running it with different size meshes until the stress values that will be attained by the model converges to a specific point. And then once it reaches that point, that mesh will be the mesh that will be used continuing the iteration process.
And I hope yun yung mapakita mo visualization sa yung claim na meron ka
Yes, sir.
visualization.
Yes, sir. I plan to showcase it in a minute.
Okay. Siguro that's it for me. And siguro wala pa ano filter reviews. Filter reviews. So, ano na. Kayo ba? May tanong ba? So, we have some time to loiter around. Habang naghihintay tayo ng questions on VC. Sige. Abangan natin sa midterm yung presentation niya. So, make sure na kahit kayo, attend din kayo kahit na hindi kayo mag-present. Para lang may, alam naman natin, kailangan natin punuin yung stadium kasi concert na Adrian Boy ito eh. May audience, diba? So, dapat, maraming nakikita. And definitely, mas magandang venue na. Magandang venue kapag marami. Wala kang tanong. So, let us call on our next presenter. And check kung sino ba yun. Mukhang bumibilis tayo, Mapapaaga tayo ng tapos. So, si lecture pala, advice ko. So, okay. Yep. So, let's call our lecture. My advice is to present. Again, you have 4 minutes and your time starts now.
So today I am present to present my side of sensitive design analysis of related disasters in the 21st century for the Philippines. Next. So for the 3 consecutive years, from 2020 to 2024, the Philippines has consistently ranked first in the World Risk Index. It is a composite and evolving statistic composed of 100 indicators, and it is computable through the following equation. And so, next slide. For my progress as to how to address the increasing vulnerability of the country to disasters, I have created for one of my objectives was to create a preliminary disaster database. So I've tabulated already 1,642 municipalities, and from 2020 to 2024, the totally damaged houses per typhoon. Next slide, sir. And also the partially damaged houses. Next slide. For the second objective of my research, which is currently in progress, I'm undergoing K-means clustering analysis. So I have used C and I've constructed structs, figure 2. And for the first function of the clustering, I have read and stored these percentages into arrays. I will discuss the percentages in the next slide. And then I've also initialized centroids. It's part of this type of analysis. Slide. And then I computed the implicit distances of these towns to the centroids. Next slide. For the third function, I computed the means of every cluster. Next slide. And then the iteration of the K-means cluster. Next slide. And then lastly, the goal of K-means is to determine the total within cluster sum of squares, which is I'm currently in progress at, which is currently my issue, and I'm trying to determine the appropriate centroids for this. And the goal of K-means is to minimize the WCSS to find the optimum K. And why am I doing this? The next slide. again, others. I have run the iteration in C. That's for a total of 1,642 towns. These are the results for one roof type. This is taken from the Philippine Statistics Authority data set, and for K equals 5, and runs down to 26 pages. Next slide. So I'm doing this in order to determine a possible connection with the values of damaged houses and the clusters of towns in order to determine whether or not there is an increased vulnerability in the housing structures of the country. Next slide. For my scope limitations, I focus on a single dimension of vulnerability within the engineering science perspective, the physicality of the houses, the housing structures. And then I am articulating a flat file database, and I have using Microsoft Excel there. I've been using C as the programming language, and then C++ for the application. And lastly, housing characteristics were obtained from 2020. These are the characteristics that I used to code for the program. The construction materials of the outer walls and construction materials of the roofs of different housing structures. For the conceptual framework, the goal is to determine the physical housing vulnerability of these town clusters across different types of events through the totally partially damaged houses with the help of maximum state winds across type of events, and together with the CMOW distribution and CMR distribution of the housing characteristics of towns, which will affect the cluster assignment of towns, which in turn finally affects physical housing vulnerability of town clusters. And this is my current progress for research, and I think these are my references. That's all.
Thank you for that presentation. So siguro, since advice ko, find time to ask questions and give comments about this presentation. Siguro, una ko tatanong is, siguro, naging lost yung audience mo sa K-means clustering. So dapat introduce mo, bakit kailangan mag-K-means clustering?
So kailangan mag-group yung towns into groups na may similarity sila. So in this case, yung similarity na hinahanap natin ay yung kung gaano sila magkakalapit in terms of yung construction materials ng roof tapos ng outer walls. Ganon. So given sa PSA na for every roof type, merong I think 11 na classes ng outer walls na connected. Ganon. Tapos, ang ginagawa ko ngayon, per roof type, ay ginagawa ng K-means clustering analysis. So, ang ginagawa niya, mag-assume ka muna ng value ng K, tapos titignan mo yung pag-run ng analysis, makikita mo kung aling towns yung magkakaparehas, halos magkakaparehas. Ngayon kapag pag nahanap yung optimum na value ng K, kasi depende pa yung ilang clusters pa yung 1,642 kasi. So, maganda na cluster siya para maging konti lang yung values natin. So, kung may nahanap na optimum K, ang makikita natin yung town clusters may kanya-kanya silang attributes na characteristics. So, nag-group na natin sila. Pwede nang makita sa kapag may halimbawa given a type of event, makikita natin yung difference ng tatlong clusters na yon sa kung gaano kadagang damaged houses, ganun dun sa towns na yun. Tapos, across typhoon events, so pwedeng makita between those clusters kung mas may damaged na houses dito, ganun. So, ang basically significance is makikita natin yung construction practices pa yung dahilan kung bakit tumataas yung vulnerability o dahil ba tumataas yung maximum sustained winds ng mga bagyo. Ganun. So, yun.
Siguro, to have your audience appreciate yung K-means clustering, dapat you should provide a sample na figure. Kahit 2D lang, na X and Y axis lang. You provide a set of data, set of data points and demonstrate how K-means clustering will happen para makita nyo. Binigyan mo ng lines of code para mga programmers ba tayo? Kaya ba natin yan? So, isa pang comment is yung conceptual framework mo. Siguro, narinig mo na yung mga discussion nila, whether is that really a conceptual framework. Ano yung kailangan mong i-work on dito? At siguro, use this time, Q&A time, for an explanation as to how would you reframe yung conceptual framework. Ano yung mga related na parameters? In your own words.
Ako para sila related, sir.
Yeah, ano yung mga concepts that are in hand, that you are using or you are covering in your study?
So parang dalawa yung main na independent variables. Yung damaged houses totally and partially galing siya sa Philippine Statistics Authority. Pinapublish nila every 5 years yung composition.
Siguro parang more of methodological framework. How are the variables that you identify interact with one another? Iba yung concept. Parang saan, kung imamapa mo yung study mo, saan mo ma-place yung study? Ano yung mga involved na concept, topics?
Well, ayun, vulnerability yung main na sa involved yung research. Sa vulnerability, physical vulnerability. Tapos sa yung disaster risk yung overall na dahilan para ng goal is ma-reduce yung disaster risk. So within disaster risk, kasi madaming components yung disaster risk, so sa vulnerability. Tapos ay physical aspect lang ng vulnerability.
And Sir Julius forwarded a question about the practical use. Will be using the database and how will they benefit?
So sa ngayon, since flat file database siya, lang siya, intermediate state siya para sa isang database management system. So sa ngayon, mas hindi siya oriented sa isang user. Parang ang goal pa lang ngayon ay sa analysis pa lang na part.
And how will if you're mentioning yung analysis as the main na product, parang main na may pitch mo, how will they benefit from your, and yung ano yung mga identified mo na potential benefactors?
Possibly kapag naging successful or naging maayos yung nahanap na yung optimum K, ganyan. Mas ma-identify, mas madaling ma-identify kung aling dahil given na na-cluster na yung mga towns, mas madaling ma-identify kung aling towns yung mas may kailangan ng improvement. Ganun. Tapos kung alin yung mas vulnerable kapag lumabas na yung results. So, magagawa ng action, ng municipalities or yung mga nating structural engineers, alam nila na dito sa town cluster na to mas kailangan natin improve or okay na dito sa town cluster na to. So,
siguro incorporate mo na siya sa presentation mo sa midterm na as you develop yung database, you have already identified sino yung makikinabang. And sa pangtanong, please reflect down on this more. And we do not want a supply-driven study. We want a demand-driven study. More important, who will benefit? Yun yung key reminders for you. Okay? So, yun yung sisingilin sa'yo pagdating ng midterm presentation. Kailangan provide put in stone, sino yung makikinabang, and who specifically will benefit. Okay? So, siguro, doon na muna ang Q&A. So, parang ginisa na ng bagay. So, siguro last presenter, then the meeting, dahil muna pa si Mr. Felix. We'd like to follow Mr. Pasqua, who is a Vice President. And Ms. Lee, sir, okay. Okay, tama. Okay. Okay, you have 4 minutes, so you may take.
So good day, I'm Juan Pasqua, and I'm the guidance of Dr. Eric.
I'm presenting my current progress with the study, rapid seismic damage state prediction of Flores regular high code RC movement rates. So next one. Next one. So given the current limitations of current seismic performance evaluations or the utility of machine learning for that application. So given the following parameters, high-level input parameters, we aim to predict global damage state as well as the member level damage state of different structures. So next one, ultimately, we want to come up with a program that takes in the following input parameters. So we have building, seismic, and parameters to output ultimately the global damage state based on performance points and the member level damage states based on performance levels. So pertinent to that is the information on optimal cycle sizes and minimum reinforcement areas. So this represents the minimum requirements as set forth in 2015. So with that, there comes the necessity for a supplementary ML model, so a graph neural network, that can transform high-level user inputs into more specific structural information listed here. So from all that information, we can now feed that into our primary ML model that will give us our global and member states. So next page. So with that, we've restricted our structures to residential occupancy. So here are the updated input parameters consisting of the following building and seismic parameters, and the updated modeling parameters. So we deem this reasonable for our updated occupancy type. So for our progress, we updated a program for stratified random counting. So my strata will contain all combinations of number of stories, number of bays in the short and long direction, as well as the sort of time. And within those strata, we are going to randomly sample the following continuous variables. So with that, we stored the information into the following files. And I've also generated an API program that automatically generates, analyzes, and designs a number of structures. So I've designed 1,200 structures tabs. So here are the histograms of the different variables. And I've extracted the following design information per beams and per columns. So this will be our output for our first machine learning model. Okay, next. So with that, under data processing, I've developed a file format containing input parameters and design results to organize the pertinent information associated with each structure. And finally, I've developed a system for indexing members for later calling into the output program. And with that index of members, I wrote a program that can identify or derive a member's spatial info based on its member ID. So the following for columns and then for fields. So with that, we're in the third week of March, and before next week, or hopefully by the midterms, we aim to present the updated architecture of our first model and print results. So that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Pasqua, for that presentation. So, we'd like to acknowledge the presence. So, may humahabol na attendees. So, si Ma'am Yani at saka si Sir Ian, who is tuning in right now, na potentially magbibigay ng tanong. So, lucky you. So, may magtatanong na extra. So, so far, ano yung target natin?
Overall.
Yeah.
Overall.
Second.
Global and micro.
So currently, nagawa mo na lahat ng design ng process. You already have those buildings, then target modes, i-plug in siya over different size parameters.
Yes, po.
And based dun sa performance point natin, and ano yung increments ko?
For which
So, yung for the seismic parameters, ilan na ulit yung ano?
so yun po yung mga soil profile sourceless studies. Yun lang.
Yun lang. Okay. So, reflecting dun sa title, damage state prediction. So, how are you planning to do yung damage? Parang what damage, how can you establish yung damage state? Is there something that you refer to or something that you plan to come up with your own?
Okay. So, we're adopting yung approach ni JB Peña, which is a precursor to this research. So, based on performance point po kasi, ma-extract niyo yung roof displacement and base shear. So, given that maximum roof displacement or base shear for a given earthquake response, may formulas po siyang ginamit, which is based on risk UE.
And essentially, is it a form of fragility curves if you're mentioning damage state prediction? Basically, you said yung seismic parameters mo may take increments, particularly in intensity.
Yes. Wala po. It's basically input lang from this output.
Okay. And kailan yung target natin na pag-test nito ng gamit nung ano natin, pati-develop na GNA?
Hopefully by the first week of May.
First week of May. And ano yung in-anticipate mo na result?
Like performance.
Yes.
Based on past studies po, they were shooting for 0.99 coefficient in our sample. So hopefully we can achieve that.
Meron bang threshold dito say na para establish ng threshold?
As of now, I haven't.
Siguro calling on yung ating panel kung may tanong tayo. So basically, this is a parang recap lang sa kanila. This is a progress meeting. They only presented their progress, particularly for C199 students. And yung magiging main meet, syempre, yung formal na presentation on which included yung introduction ng topic and lahat, pati yung progress ay sa midterms. So, may tanong ba tayo, Sir Lilian, Pamiani, Sir Julius? Define rapid. Which type of the whole process is rapid? And how rapid is the rapid comparison to the traditional structural analysis methods?
With this machine learning model po yung siguro sabihin natin pipeline, ideally it could be almost instant. It wouldn't take po yung usual months na pag-model ka pa, mag-design ka pa, mag-analysis, ganun po. So based on data po, yun yung isang strength of data-driven models is the speed.
Okay. Then, follow-up question from Pomiani. How accurate is your method compared to the traditional design?
So supposedly po, kung ideal po, kung tama yung pag-treat ng data, yung pag-collect ng data, and proper unit of value, ideally, it should match po yung physics-driven methods. Pero po, we're limited to what these architectures can do. For example, what neural network and basically machine learning general, we're limited to how we set up the model in that we cannot actually capture lahat po ng nuances, and that's one of the limitations of using such.
May metric ba for the prerequisites na na-mention? Say, accurate siya. So, you listed 3 na kailangan dito, kailangan ganyan. May sukatan ba siya? Hindi, parang as a follow-up kasi dun sa sinabi mo na as long as ganito, accurate naman siya. So, parang you listed yung conditions. Parang meron bang metric into establishing whether those conditions are met?
Basically, yung loss function po na minimize during training of different machine learning models.
Okay. Siguro check ko lang. Since, ano naman, last presenter na naman, so chillax ka na dyan. And, so, mukhang wala naman na. And I believe we'll reserve yung additional questions siguro by chat. May hahabol, hindi na relate naman sa'yo. And most of them will be coming pagdating na ng midterm. So, be prepared naman. And hoping na this is enough preparation for all of you guys sa coming na midterm presentation. And thank you, Sir Julius, Sir Ian, Sir Mamiani, for attending this research progress meeting, although virtually. So we are thankful for your virtual presence. And syempre, palakpakan naman natin ulit ang ating mga sarili. And we hope that mapaganda natin yung upcoming na midterm presentation. Because most surely, hindi na lang ako yung magsasalita dito and may mga bigat na aura na professor. So thank you all for attending. So